Hello and welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Randy Dickinson and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Hey, I'm DJ Ross. I am in Mountain View, California.
Each week here on Video Game Hangover, we talk about the games that have been keeping us up at night. This week we're playing Mario Golf Super Rush and River City Girls.
Super Rush.
Super Rush.
Just two words that I just can't disassociate with golf. Just always just rushing around. I don't know. Doing super moves, I presume.
Trying really hard to make golf exciting.
I don't know about you. Whenever I finish a round of golf, I'm just like, oh, that certainly was a rush.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Might even call that one a super rush.
I almost didn't make it past the windmill. Yeah.
Okay.
I keep wanting the super in that title to be before Mario. So I have, my brain goes Super Mario Golf Rush. No, that's not right.
Super Mario Golf Rush.
Yep.
That sounds like it could be a title.
Super Mario Golf Super Rush. That's too many supers.
That's too many supers. Yeah.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing over there. They've got their style guide for the appropriate number of supers to have in a Mario title.
Yes. Yeah. 1 is the limit.
1.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Good job. After countless thousands of yen put into researching the correct number of supers to be in a Mario title, they landed on number. 1.
Yep.
Yes.
So, how's things? How was your 4th of July long weekend? Hopefully you had a long weekend.
Yeah. No, it was good.
Yeah. Is it sweaty in California? It's sweaty everywhere.
It's not really sweaty over here.
Wow.
Surprisingly. I don't know what's going on. Like, the Pacific Northwest is on fire. Or not on fire yet, but just very hot up there.
Just, cooking on high. Yeah.
Yeah, but then, like, Bay Area, it's, like, in the 70s. It's pretty nice.
Oh, holy crap.
I don't know what's going on. Just trying to appreciate it while it lasts before everything starts catching on fire again.
Right, yeah. You could wake up in the morning to flames, so.
Maybe more likely than I realize.
It's toasty here. It's in 90s. I think 96 in the forecast for tomorrow. It's just, it's a lot. It's too much.
That is too much.
Yeah. Can't deal.
It's far too much. Speaking of too much, I went back and I completed Resident Evil 5.
Oh, wow. That is way too much. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, just as a quick update on this.
Yeah.
They were right. They were right, after all, it turned out. After those opening few hours where I was like, this feels like Resident Evil 4. Why did people complain about this game? just every little other thing going on in the game just built up. And I was like, nope, I get it now.
And meanwhile, all of us are like, wait for it, wait for it.
Right. I mean...
And there it is, yes.
To be clear, I wasn't loving it since the beginning, but I was just like, maybe it's not as bad as they said.
But it felt right. So that's the important thing. Yeah.
Well, it felt kind of right. It felt familiar.
Familiar. Okay, sure.
Yeah. Eventually, though, it just got to the point where I'm going to put most of the blame on just the co-op partner being one of the worst in any video game I've played, because she is so dumb. There are so many enemies later on in the game that can just kill you outright if you like stand too close to them, and she did not apparently carry this knowledge over from one life to the next.
Oh.
So she would just run up to him. Like, I appreciate the gusto, where she just like, I got this one. Don't worry about this, Chris. And she just gets impaled. I was just like, oh, now we gotta go back and do this again.
Is that immediate game over? Do you not have the opportunity to revive a co-op partner in that game unless you're playing with another human being?
Sometimes you could, but there are some attacks where you just can't get revived from. And those were the ones that she seemed to just seek out.
Sure.
She was like, this is the one I'm going to
especially enthusiastic about, yeah.
Yeah. So there was a lot of that. There was a lot of doors where you need 2 people to open, whether it's because there are like 2 switches on either side or maybe 2 buttons. Like, you're trying to launch the nuclear missiles or something. And I would be like, all right.
Can I tell you how many times in my daily life I come across a door I'm trying to open and I don't have a friend around to hit the switch on the other side of the room. Yeah.
You don't have the arm span to throw 2 switches at once.
Yeah. I need like a broomstick and
and I'd just be like, all right, I'm at the door. where's my co-op partner? And she's like across the room collecting items or something. I was like again, I appreciate it, but let's focus.
Oh God.
That was another thing. There are so many items to pick up, and for whatever reason, you just never have any inventory space. You can carry 9 things in this game.
I remember that. I rember that shitty little grid of 9 things that you had to sort of like prioritize how many things, of green herbs do I want?
Right. And like compared to Resident Evil 4's just luxurious suitcase of weapons and things you carried around, which was like a kind of a fun and unique component of that game because you did the sort of the inventory Tetris of like rotating things around.
I love that.
And squeeze as much in there. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it's good in the newer. I guess they're not new anymore, but the more recent Deus Ex games, they do that really well.
Oh yeah. Oh man, I forgot about that. Yeah, got that weird square assault rifle, just to ruin your inventory Tetris.
Yeah, exactly. But if you want to carry an assault rifle, you're gonna find a way.
Yeah. So anyway, that was a huge bummer. Because not only was it just annoying because I couldn't carry as much as I wanted to, but there was just nothing interesting about picking stuff up and putting it in my inventory. So, yeah, ultimately, just all these things, they became too much, and I was like, oh, glad this game is over with.
Quick, name one video game that did the PC-controlled, computer-controlled co-op partner well.
BioShock Infinite did it pretty well.
That's the one I can think of. Yes,
The Last of Us. Well, so the thing in those two games is
I have thoughts on this, but go ahead. You do you. I asked you the question. You can answer it. Go ahead.
Right. Well, so the reason it works so well is they like functionally don't exist. They're invisible to the enemies, which is the problem in this game.
Yep.
If you wanted to narrow it down and say, okay, somebody who exists and is like vulnerable, then I don't know what I would answer. I would say maybe Resident Evil 4, because you didn't have an AI partner the entire game. And certainly when you did, she wasn't the smartest, but you had a huge advantage in that game where you could literally throw her into a dumpster and just not think about her for a while.
I must not have gotten to that point in Resident Evil 4 because I'm not familiar with this.
Oh no, it was great.
Yeah. But yeah, I think your two examples are the two that were in my brain as well. BioShock Infinite and especially The Last of Us and Last of Us 2, obviously later. But yeah, I mean, they really, instead of trying to make sort of the perfect co-op partner, they just made one that the enemies really didn't give a shit about for the most part.
Yeah,
there were a lot of scenarios in the first Last of Us I can recall where Ellie, is it Ellie her name? Yeah, would have like her face and knee and leg sticking out from behind cover. And I'm like, you're just going to get eaten. You're just going to get shot. And they don't care. They're not interested at the very least in you.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah, instead of trying to make it work right, they just turned it off completely.
Yeah.
Which made it work right. So there you go.
That's all you want.
Yeah.
It was almost to the point of, like, I mean, it was to the point of hilarity where I would be behind cover and Ellie would be like sprinting back and forth between two half walls on opposite sides of the room. Where I'm just like, oh, you like that one better? This one? They're gonna see you. Like in any other game, you would be dead right now. But
right? Yeah. We would have to restart already, and yeah.
It's fine. Just decide on your spot. It's like the dog that has to turn around 10 times before they go to sleep.
I'm familiar with that. Yes, exactly. Yep.
It's like just pick one.
In BioShock, they had the sort of the added bonus of her occasionally giving you ammo or pickups. So she'd be like, "Hey, Booker," and would throw you like, "Hey, a clip full of ammo just when I need it most. So thank you." So basically, she was, carrying around a suitcase of infinite ammo.
Right.
So not so bad as far as co-op partners go.
Yeah. Starting this off, it was painfully clear that this was a game that came before either of those two games, where they still hadn't figured out the AI co-op partner yet. Yeah, I feel like I played one recently that had a co-op partner, and it was not as egregious as Sheva in Resident Evil 5, but also it wasn't quite to the point where she was just or he. I don't remember. I don't know why. So why do you always have a female co-op partner? It's weird. I don't know. I can't remember. Totally blanking on this.
There's layers to that conversation. Probably we don't have time for, but yeah.
Yeah.
What was the one you were playing recently where? Like you would throw your co-op partner. You had somebody that you had to like chuck into combat or something like that, they were essentially a weapon. But it was I think in that scenario, it was a woman as well who would follow you around until you got into combat, and then you had to sort of wield them.
Well, I think just extrapolating off the last few games, that she definitely was a woman. I don't know. Did I play something recently?
Maybe it was a game that got a remake recently.
I don't know. I'm drawing a blank.
No.
Yakuza
Gone
7.
as well. My apologies to our listeners. This is not an exciting part of the conversation, but I would have to scrub back through our previous episodes to figure out what the hell I'm talking about.
I played, you can recruit a little AI companion in Spelunky 2.
It certainly was not that. No.
Whenever that happens, I instantly just execute them. Because I'm like, as much of an idea, like, as much potential as this concept may have of a little helper in Spelunky 2, 90% of the time they just get me killed. So I'm like, no thanks.
That's a hard pass.
Yeah. But anyway, Resident Evil 5. I thought, after I finished the game, I thought maybe I would spend a little more time with it because, like, throughout the course of the game, you spend a lot of time upgrading your weapons. And I learned that when you fully upgrade one, you get a version of the weapon that has infinite ammo. I was like, oh, that's exciting. Who doesn't want to play a game where you have infinite ammo? And then I just realized, like, well, the only game I can play with these guns is Resident Evil 5. So I think I'll just take a pass on this. So now I played it. Check that box.
Well, now you can play Resident Evil 6.
Now I can play Resident Evil 6. Yeah, this is probably will happen sooner than you think, but I'm going to take a little break from those.
Was Nier Replicant the version point blah 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 blah? Is that a video game where your co-op partner is essentially a weapon?
You don't throw them, although you do have co-op partners in that game who are actually like pretty competent. There's not a lot of stealth in that game though. Not a lot of instant kills.
All right. Well, I don't know what game I was talking about. Maybe I made it up. Maybe somebody should make that game. Let's make a game
where you throw your partner.
Yeah, where your partner is in this case a dude who just follows you around.
Yeah, who only exists for you to throw them.
Yeah, you get into combat and you have to sort of pick them up and hoist them in the direction of your enemy. And while they're over there, they do stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. You can pick up and throw your co-op partner in Spelunky 2. Are you sure you're not talking about Spelunky 2? You're not just playing Spelunky 2 all the time?
No, I'm just a closet Spelunky 2 fan. Yeah, I don't believe so, no.
Okay. Just wondering. Sounds a lot like you're talking about Spelunky 2.
Yeah. That would be impressive because I've never played Spelunky 2. Unless I just wake up in the middle of the night and instead of sleepwalking, just play Spelunky 2.
Just go over to the PlayStation and download Spelunky 2.
Yeah. Yeah. And, 17 hours later when it's done downloading.
Yeah.
Yep. And somehow I'm still asleep.
Yeah. Who knows?
I've missed work. I haven't eaten or bathed. Yeah.
That's why you just never feel rested in the morning anymore.
That's exactly it. Yeah. I'm sleep spelunkying.
Yeah.
So bring us current. What are we playing recently? I have been playing lots of Mario Golf Super Rush.
Super Rush.
Yeah. So new Mario Golf game, everyone. Hey.
Yeah.
And it's a good one. They, so far, anyways. So there's
until like Luigi just gets himself impaled every other hole.
It could happen. Some of the golf battles in this get a little intense.
Golf battles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is again Nintendo just rolling out anything they possibly can to make golf interesting.
I felt like the previous Mario Golf game was pretty fun, but I don't remember thinking, like, I wish there were battles in this.
Yeah. This is more like Mario Kart than it is Mario Golf.
Okay.
I will explain. So the game starts, you go down two directions. You can sort of just immediately get into some golf. You can play online golf, you can play solo golf. But there is also, and this is where I've spent all of my time thus far, an adventure mode, where you play as your little me, again, Nintendo remembering that there's a system to create a character that looks like you on their platform.
Did you have to create
And
a me to play this? Did you have one ready to go?
I had one ready to go. I had one that sort of pulled out of I think I had multiples. It said, which one do you want to use?
Oh.
And I went with one that had a more recent haircut. So yeah, I've been playing as a little beardy, glasses-wearing version of me. And yeah, you start off as a golf noob, and you roam from sort of clubhouse to clubhouse, talking to golf masters who teach you different tricks and stuff like that, and will challenge you to sort of pitching challenges or putting challenges and things like that. And those are fun, and you get little unlocks and stuff like that, and you can pick up coins and buy new little golfer outfits with them and stuff like that. But then you get into sort of like the competition element of this, and you get sort of the main tournaments. And they take place across a number of different sort of types and environments of golf courses, essentially. And this is where it gets a little wacky, in that it is never just your standard vanilla version of golf with you sort of hitting a ball and then slowly walking after it, or just, in video game terms, I think you just magically warp to the next to the next place your ball lies, or to the next hole. In Mario Golf, like, you hit your ball and then you run as fast as you possibly can after it, because everybody else, Mario, Luigi, all of their friends and enemies are golfing alongside you simultaneously.
Oh, it's like speed golf. If
it kind of, yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. And they'll tee off as well, and they will start booking after their ball. And on the golf course, there are pickups. There are little coins you can pick up and turn in for other things. You get little speed boosts from those. Oh. You get little hearts that refill your stamina immediately, so you can speed boost faster.
So they actually make you physically run.
They make you physically run, yeah. There is a little animation, and I think it's funny every time, of your little me bending over and picking up his little golf bag with his clubs in it, and kind of hoisting it over his shoulder, and then immediately taking off in a run across the green. And if you're boosting, if you're sort of speed rushing, super rushing, right, you can run into other players and sort of knock them down or knock them back and delay them from getting to their ball. So you kind of want to be first one on green, first one, ideally in the cup. It still, hinges on you having less strokes than your competitors. But there is something sort of fun.
Does it add a stroke like every time you take a swing at one of your opponents?
It does not. There is no penalty for knocking somebody off their game, essentially.
Oh, that's not very sporting.
Yeah, it's terrible. There's a number of obstacles on the field as well. There's sort of rolling boulders. There's like a Lakitu kind of cloud that's sort of throwing, wind in your direction, trying to knock you off place and knocking your ball off place. There are just roaming tornadoes on the playfield, and if you shoot your ball into a tornado, it whisks all the way up and then shoots out, and you get a little extra height. Sometimes the hole you're trying to shoot is like up on the top of a mountain point, and you have to sort of strategically use a tornado to get it up there. The first time I did that, I was like, okay, cool, the ball's up there. How do I get up there now? And I was looking for stairs or an elevator, or like, is there a spot I can climb up the mountain? No, you just run into the tornado, and it lifts you up as well, and poops you out of the top, and hopefully you land on the green as well.
What were you thinking? Yeah, pedestrian solutions, like, I'll just find a staircase.
Yeah.
How quaint.
Yeah. Just seems so obvious that you just run into the tornado.
Right. Well, I mean, you spend enough time in the Mushroom Kingdom, you start to see solutions.
It seems so obvious, yeah. But seriously, I was stumped by that the first time. I was like, there's gotta be some pathway up to the top of the mountain. Nope, just run into the tornado behind your ball, dummy. Yeah, so all of this is happening kind of simultaneously, and you're chasing after as many sort of holes and keeping your strokes low, and et cetera, all the sort of the golf things that you would expect from a golf game, with this extra layer of sort of Mario Kart type acrobatics happening on your way from shot to shot, essentially.
So what happens when you actually are like trying to line up your shot? Are people like attacking you, or like throwing turtle shells at you, or you get a break from all that?
you get a break from all that. So once you sort of lock in, you approach your ball and you kind of lock into your tee up essentially, which is pretty standard kind of golf tee up where you get kind of a meter and the little line that moves up and down and you have to sort of land it at exactly the right spot. And one is sort of power and the other one is kind of direction. So you get 2 meters essentially, and you can kind of curve the ball. And later on in the game, it teaches you all kinds of different things about how to like use the wind to your advantage and how to use like the direction of the hill you're shooting from, and when you're on the green, kind of how to follow some of the clues for what the terrain is like, and it gets pretty technical. There is a surprisingly deep and complex kind of golf sim built into this thing, but is all under obviously the coating of super cute kind of Mario stuff, and Toad wearing little commentator headphones over his giant mushroom head and commenting on your shots and the game and stuff like that. And so yeah, again, it's, the stuff you would expect from a Mario game, from a Nintendo game, with a surprisingly deep and complex kind of golf game buried underneath all of that stuff. But when you're teeing up, nobody can attack you. Nobody can, not that I found anyways, can beat you up. Even if there's like rolling obstacles on the field and stuff like that, you're kind of impervious to them as long as you're in that kind of tee up animation.
I kind of feel like they should have left it open. Like, right, step exactly. Up to the tee. Why do people stop attacking you then?
Yeah. Yeah. If you see Waluigi taking his next shot, just run up and whack him with a golf club.
Yeah. I mean, at least have an option for that. Like, you don't have to play with it if you don't want to. But feels like a missed opportunity.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I feel like it already sort of sometimes feels like organized chaos, that to have a moment where you're like, okay, nobody can fuck with me for the 8 seconds I'm trying to take my shot is probably nice and necessary. I imagine there was an early version of this game where all bets were off and they could just mess with you at any point, and probably some smart playtester went, this is a lot, guys. You really need to tone this down. Yeah. The mode that has kind of confounded me thus far the most, and this comes relatively early in the game, is this one where it sort of drops you in the middle of a golf course, and there are 9 holes that you have to sort of sink your ball into, and they are sort of randomly located around the golf course around you, and you can tackle them in any order you want. So it's not like you're moving from sort of hole 1 to hole 2 to hole 3. They drop you in the middle of the golf course, and you have to sort of chart your way from hole to hole to hole, hopefully landing all of your shots in as many strokes as possible, because you're only limited to, I think in that mode you get 90. So you get basically 10 per hole, which seems like a lot, but you're also trying to like climb a mountain and deal with obstacles and all of this other stuff and roaming tornadoes and et cetera, et cetera. So you're trying to sort of chart the easiest, most frictionless way around the map, while also sort of basically shutting down all of these holes as you go. And man, there had to be 3 or 4 times where I was on the very last hole, just wrapping this thing up and watching my stroke count go lower, like 3-2. And like, I'm 1 away. Like, I just have to putt and I can end this thing and I'm out of strokes.
Oh.
So yeah, it was infuriating because it took me a number of attempts. And then somebody in our Discord was like, how is anyone getting through this? What is your strategy? I'm like, I have been beating my head against this thing for the last 3 days. It is, quite infuriating, but I mean, crazy fun. But it does make you kind of wonder, like, why is this in the game so early and what am I missing that should be making this easier for me?
What do they give you in terms of like do-overs in that mode? Like, if you take a shot and you don't like it, are you stuck with it, or you got a couple mulligans?
You're committed. Yeah, it's like you can.
Oh, that's it. Oh, wow.
Yep, you can go into the menu and restart back at the jump. You can go from the beginning again, but you can't rewind or do over or. If it lands sort of weird in the geometry, or if it falls down into a crevasse or obviously sandpit or water hazard or anything like that, you could take kind of a 1-stroke penalty and drop it somewhere. There is a do-over, like if your character gets stuck or if you get separated from your ball, you can take a penalty-free sort of reset, and it will put you and your ball back in a safe spot. But that functionality only pops up sometimes if you get stuck in a weird place in the terrain, essentially. So there's a few things kind of built into it to kind of help, but on that mode, I've been 3 or 4 holes into it, and I'll miss an important shot, and I'll know that I'm going to have to use 3 or 4 strokes to just get myself out of it. And I'm like, I better start over because there's no way. I'm threading the needle so closely on this that I'm going to need those 3 strokes that I just wasted to be able to finish this thing. So yeah, I'll get, it has been 3 or 4 holes into a 9-hole round and realize that there's just, I've wasted all of my shots and I'm never going to be able to finish with what I've got left. So yeah, scrub the whole thing, start over from scratch.
I don't know if it's good or bad that it doesn't have like an instant do-over thing. Maybe it's a good thing, because if it did, I imagine if I played this, I would just spend the entire time like, oh, I didn't get the 100% perfect shot that time, so undo and just start it over, and I would probably never finish a round.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm just like, I can't believe, I can also imagine just getting halfway through and being like, well, I definitely am not going to pull this one out, so
right.
Might as well cut my losses.
Yeah, and like early on, you don't have the ability to sort of see that, or you don't, or you talk yourself out of giving up and go, well, it's good practice, right? So I can see sort of like what's up the hill and stuff like that, because basically using it to explore. But no, yeah, after my 7th, 8th, 9th attempt at this thing, I was like, nope, this is not going to happen. There's just no way. There was one shot that I had kind of charted. It's on basically a mountain working your way down. So it starts you about halfway. You, as a player, it starts halfway. And there are holes kind of up the mountain above you and holes below the mountain under you, essentially. So my thought was, waste 4 or 5 shots to get to the very top of the mountain, and then use gravity to help, and just sort of essentially work my way down the mountain to the bottom, because, the ball rolls downhill. And I just could not be talked out of this strategy. I had to see it through. And that ultimately is what got me there. So if anyone's stuck on this thing, that thing worked for me. I'm not saying that's the easiest way. It took me a number of attempts to be able to get that thing to do what I wanted it to do. But I was able to sort of sink the ball in the very last, the 9th pin, with maybe 1 or 2, I think it was 2 strokes left. So again, cutting it real close. And if I had not sunk it at the end there, I probably would have thrown my controller across the house.
I don't know. The big deal is, if I were going to play this, I would think I would just shoot a hole in one every single time. That seems like the easiest way to do it.
It's funny because the game does not sort of prepare you for this frustration. Like I said, it happens relatively early that you get to this round, and it's sort of built into this little adventure mode, into the story here, is that we've had some crazy weather and the course is not in great shape and it's a little beat up right now, but we're gonna let you play anyways. So they dump you out there and expect you to sort of figure your way out. So it's like survival mode essentially. So when you're in practice mode, when you're doing sort of the putting challenges and stuff like that, you feel like the master of the universe. You feel like, I'm really good at this game. I am going to kill anyone sort of coming at me in this game. I'm just going to house them. And then they dump you on a mountainside with a bunch of tornadoes and rolling boulders, and you're just not prepared. Your game may be on, and you may be good on a nice flat even green on a nice sort of rolling hill somewhere with a couple of trees and maybe a sand pit, but no, we try to climb down a mountain without losing your sanity. It gets real tough.
In this mode, are you also still being assaulted by golfers between holes?
No, fortunately in this one, you're playing solo. It's just you out there trying to forge your way. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that seems like it would be excessive.
Yeah. And I think, again, one of those things that probably a smart playtester, whoever that person is, thank you, had to speak up and say, this is probably a lot, you guys. You might want to tone it down, particularly for the 3rd hour of the game. But yeah, so the adventure mode, despite that little hiccup, has been a lot of fun. And even that was a lot of fun. I continuously sort of throwing myself at it. And my girlfriend sitting on the couch next to me going, what if you tried it this way? Super invested in this and making sure that we get through this round of Mario Golf, trying to sort of unlock the puzzle of this mode. was a good time. It's been a good time. There's a light RPG element to it where you have sort of meters you're trying to fill up and unlock new abilities and stuff like that. So you can unlock additional boost time. You can unlock more control over your shots to have forward spin or back spin and stuff like that. So as you get as you level up, you unlock sort of new little tokens you can kind of spend on additional upgrades and things like that. You can buy, like I said, you can buy all kinds of cool little themed costumes and hats and new shoes that unlock different abilities. You can unlock, the piranha plant driver that allows you to, do something extra, blah, blah, blah. But you waste a ton of coins on these little things. Mm-hmm. So there are all kinds of fun little like Mario, Nintendo kind of like power-ups essentially built into the game as well. So yeah, the adventure mode, which is where I spent all my time thus far, is super fun, surprisingly robust. And again, I continue to be sort of blown away by how much sort of like real technical golf is built into this cutesy little package. I have not wandered into the online yet. I feel like
oh, man.
Maybe I'm not ready. It's going to be a little chaotic. I've heard the game really shines in online play, but just have not had an opportunity to play that yet. So
I'm just going to get spawn camped by Waluigi or whoever.
Undoubtedly, yeah. Yeah.
Can't even leave the clubhouse. He keeps like mortaring me or something.
Yeah, so that I've thus far have ignored the online play challenge of this, which I from reviews and stuff like that I have read is terribly fun. So I'm looking forward to checking that out, and we'll report back on a future episode. But as it stands right now, for adventure mode alone, I'm having a really good time with Mario Golf. I'm not a sports guy. I don't like watching sports. I couldn't remember the last time I bought a sports-themed video game that did not have Mario in it. Mm-hmm. And obviously there is sort of something about the way that Nintendo crafts these things that makes them, makes golf interesting or makes tennis interesting in a way that I wouldn't ordinarily find those sports. And it's not just obviously about sort of the appeal of those characters. I can play any number of Mario games that have cute characters, but to sort of put Mario in it and, make golf fun and compelling and a puzzle that I'm trying to unlock, I think takes a particularly deft hand. So I've had a fun experience unlocking all of this weirdness in Mario Golf here.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you ever play Kirby's Dream Course on the Super Nintendo?
I don't think I have. No. Is that a golf game as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like, it's not quite mini golf. But it sounds very much like the what was the name of the puzzle mode in this? Or was it just a separate course?
It's a type of course. They call it XC golf, cross country golf.
Cross country golf. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds very similar because you just get dropped onto a little like weird isometric playfield, and like you have the hole over there, and you have a certain number of shots to make it into the hole. But you also have like it's a Kirby game, so you can like eat enemies and use special abilities that affect like your swing of the golf ball in some way. But it felt very much like a puzzle game more so than a standard golf game, because there was always like this weird extra element of having the special abilities to kind of get your stroke count down, I suppose.
Yeah.
And it started out very easy, where I was like, oh yeah, all you have to do is just change the angle and get your like power level perfect, and you can get a hole in one every time. But then it quickly ramps up from there until they get very much more complicated. But it was cool. I imagine. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's on the Super Nintendo Classic, the little mini console. I believe
cool.
I've seen it. I think it's on the Nintendo Switch Online as well.
Oh.
But I'm not 100% sure about that.
Google says it's on the Wii U. I don't see
a
listing for the Switch yet, but
well, I'm pretty sure it's on the Mini. But
Super Nintendo games now available on the Switch. There you go. Yeah, Mark Kirby's Dream Course. So
excellent. Yeah. Might be worth a shot.
Huh? Ooh, it says you need to play the most underrated Kirby game on Nintendo Switch, and it's Kirby's Dream Course.
Oh yeah.
Nice. All right. Yeah. No, I didn't even know this existed. I will maybe have to check this out.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Sounds like fun.
Be curious to hear what you think after you run through all these cross country courses.
Yes, let me finish this thing first. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, credit where credit's due. There have been a number of developers who have been able to make golf fun in recent history. Golf Story is a very good game, and I played a ton of that. What the Golf was a blast. I played a ton of that. And certainly you and I have talked to no end about Desert Golf.
Sure.
So, yeah, maybe it's not so hard to make golf interesting. It's just not interesting to like play it in the real world or to watch it in the real world. But golf and video games perhaps may be more fun.
I would never watch golf, but... there was like a year. There was one summer rather where I was playing golf kind of regularly. So it was kind of fun. Although it's very much I forget who the quotation belongs to. It's like golf is a way to ruin a perfectly good walk.
It's a long walk ruined. Yes, Mark Twain.
Mark Twain. Okay, excellent.
And I know this because I went to Mark Twain Elementary School.
Oh, so. Wow.
And we had a lot of Mark Twain quotes all over the place.
Required, mandatory Mark Twain curriculum. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Yeah. That was not what I was expecting. I kind of, you say Mario sports game, you just think, oh, it's kind of a punched up version of that sport, and you've got power-ups in Mario characters. That's generally safe assumption. It's interesting that they just have this like insane melee mode added onto it. I was thinking, well, I wonder if that upset a lot of like golf purists who just want to, be watching the power meter go up and managing the wind direction. But then I'm not sure how many super golf purists are checking into Mario Golf in the first place. So
yeah, I presume there's like a Tiger Woods game somewhere out there that you probably should be playing instead. But I know that there is, and I've not played the game this way, but you can sort of quickly get into a game of golf if you want to in this. You can sort of, navigate to a couple of menus and like immediately start playing a golf game. I suspect within that you can also turn off all of the craziness too, but
that might be good.
Again, there's other games to do this. and sure, like I said, there is a pretty intense and detailed sort of golf sim buried in this thing, but I don't know. I kind of I like sort of the revolving menu of weirdness that
sure.
Mario Golf Super Rush has presented thus far. I think a lot of the character of the game comes from all of the like, oh, what is the crazy mode I'm venturing into now? I don't know how much fun it would be for me to turn those things off.
Right. I mean, That's kind of the whole reason people get into Mario sports games, I think, is they want a little bit of just the weirdness.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know when you play online, and I've not found this yet in the single player, that there are sort of Mario Kart type like power-ups that you can pick up on the field and stuff too. I've seen this in trailers. I've not encountered it in the single player yet. But again, that's I think where some of my thoughts on kind of like it's Mario Golf plus Mario Kart combined come from, and that you're really all just trying to make your way around this course and knock your rivals out of the way in a creative way.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mario Golf Super Rush has been a surprisingly good time thus far.
Cool. I really want them to make another Mario Tennis. Oh wait, they did, and I didn't. I didn't like it for some reason. I forgot what it was. Oh well.
Mario Tennis Aces. That was a year or two ago. It came out. Yeah.
Yeah.
On the Switch.
There was just something weird about it that they did. I remember it didn't really work for me.
The previous tennis game was on the 3DS, and I played a ton of that. Like
that was good.
Hundreds of hours of that game, and just did not translate that obsession into the Switch version for some reason. But the obsession is back now that there is golf.
Interesting. I did not play any golf games this week. Yeah. Did I? No, I'm pretty sure. I feel like there's just enough golf out there that I may have just played one by accident.
Even accidentally, just sort of like, oh wait, how did I get here?
Yeah, I may have hit somebody with a golf club. How about that? I played a lot of River City Girls over the weekend. This is a I don't know if it's called a spin-off, I suppose. I was getting surprisingly into just the history of this series. I'm trying to figure out exactly where it belongs. But so it's the latest game in the same series as River City Ransom, which was an NES game, which was, part of a greater series of like Japanese side-scrolling beat-em-ups. River City Ransom probably being the most well-known in the West.
Sure. That's the one that I know the title of anyways, yeah.
Yeah. And it was basically, I mean, it was a cool idea where there was a little more going on than just, going from stage 1 to stage 2, beating up everybody and then fighting the boss. It was almost like open worldy, where you would have to like do a lot of backtracking and unlock new areas, and you could build up your character with stuff you'd buy in stores, and there were like experience levels. So it was just like surprisingly complex for a game from back then. And this is a very similar format, but the twist is, aside from it just being produced with sort of modern production values and everything, but you play as the two girlfriends of, I believe, two of the characters from River City Ransom. And this was a surprise to me. Apparently they are existing characters who have been in the series since, if not the very beginning, but since like River City Ransom, I believe. They're not just two characters they invented for this spin-off. They look very different than they did in the previous games because it's kind of got a modern coat of paint on everything. But I just thought it was hilarious that, if somehow you have been keeping up with all these games, you may recognize the characters who are now, sort of in the spotlight for this edition.
Who finally have their own game.
Right.
Yeah.
So I thought that was funny. It was kind of just an interesting discovery.
Cool. I get the I think I got the vibe that these are like a Double Dragon kind of thing where you're sort of roaming the land and beating people up.
So another thing I learned when I was reading the wiki about this is that so I'm not going to get the timeline right on this either, but the creator of the original sort of River City Ransom game was called Kunio-kun. I believe that's like sort of the term people use for the entire series. I believe he went on to make Double Dragon.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, oh, wow. I didn't even realize that, like, basically the most well-known, like, brawlers from back in the day were just, like, the same guy. Just loved making that game over and over. Yeah.
Interesting. That's, yeah.
Yeah, so, good comparison. It is very much Double Dragon. Like, so kind of gives you a good idea of how this one plays. You're the two girls. Their boyfriends have been kidnapped, and you go off and decide in order to like do whatever it takes to get them back. And mostly that includes just beating up everybody in your path.
That is a fun modern spin. Instead of the damsel in distress, instead of the kidnapped girlfriend, you have the kidnapped boyfriend.
Yeah.
Very progressive.
Right. So then it basically just turns into River City Ransom, more or less. It's got kind of the same mechanics where you can like go into a shop and buy different food or accessories, and they buff up your stat points so you become more capable. If your like brawling prowess is not high enough to take on most of the enemies in the game or the later enemies. But very familiar if you've played River City Ransom even for a little bit, which I spent a couple hours playing it a couple years ago during Extra Life, but that's about the extent of my experience with it.
Yeah. And this is not a retro game, right? This is many years after River City Ransom.
Oh no, this came out I think 2 years ago, 1 or 2 years ago.
Okay, so it's
very
a new
new
game. Yeah.
So yeah, just a lot of like brawling, a lot of street fighting. And after playing it for a few hours, I was just thinking to myself, like, is this good? Is this a good game? Because I was like, I played a lot of brawlers back in the day as well. It feels very much like those. I thought like maybe I would just be a more capable gamer at this point, having like just put years and years of experience into this.
Yeah,
but it just feels like at least the opening hours are just kind of the same, like weird, kind of like clunky gameplay experience. To be fair, that's how I kind of remember brawlers playing, so maybe that is just how all brawlers play. Maybe brawlers were never that great. They were just kind of like, time sink where you can go like take your aggression out on these guys. Mm-hmm. So, there are certain points playing this where I'm just like, I don't know if I'm loving it. Certainly I enjoy just like beating people up in a video game. In a way, I feel like if you just had a ranked scale of what it means to be a video game, brawlers would probably be way up at the top because all you're just doing is mashing buttons and taking out enemies. But at the same time, I don't think it's going to be like winning any awards for like, oh man, the combat in this game, revolutionary. Like all video game combat should use River City Girls as the model following this.
Is it like, combo driven or anything like that? Is there any sort of technicality or skill required to the combat, or are you just sort of punching and kicking?
It is not really technical in a way like Bayonetta or Devil May Cry or whatever, where you have all these very elaborate combo strings you can do. It's not even definitely not even like Street Fighter in that sense. I have found it's surprisingly demanding, or maybe this just speaks to my approach to these brawler games, where I just see them as kind of mindless. But if you go into this thinking, I'm just going to mash buttons and come out on top, that's not always the case. Because it turns out you do have to be very sort of aware of what the enemies are doing, especially when you're fighting a boss. You have to kind of avoid their telegraphs that they're going to do an attack, and then just get out of the way as quickly as possible, which can be surprisingly technical. Like you do have to do some quick dodges in certain cases. Mm-hmm. In a way, it felt mildly Dark Souls-y to me, because you would go in and do your attack and knock them down on the floor, and then you probably want to back off a little bit, because a lot of the time they will do a reprisal attack when they get back up, and if you're still standing there, probably going to take you out. So it's not really the case where you can just zone out completely and mash buttons, at least not so far.
Gotcha. Okay, so it sounds like it kind of occupies a little kind of a space in between those things. So it's not as sort of straightforward as punch kick, and it's not as sort of, stringy and technical as a Bayonetta or a Devil May Cry kind of situation. It's just a sort of a space in between. Yeah.
There does seem to be a pretty robust move list. And this was fairly true of the original, or when I say the original, I just mean River City Ransom, even though it is, I think it was the second or third in the series. Mm-hmm. But it's similar to River City Ransom in that you have these additional moves you can unlock. It seems like this one has way more moves, at least way more than I remember there being in River City Ransom. So you go to a dojo and spend money to unlock new moves, which require new button combinations, or in certain cases, they add on to your standard combo. And that's something I like, because it kind of becomes, it kind of leaves it up to you to just figure out, which of these moves are effective? When should I be using this move over this move? Which move is good for crowd control and that sort of thing. And eventually you kind of develop your own fighting style. Or at least hopefully you have some sense of when to use which move when.
Right.
So that's been fun. It's been kind of it's been interesting to head back to the dojo every once in a while and just see what moves can I afford to unlock? Which one seems like it would be good? A lot of the times it's not very clear. It just comes down to I guess I'll roll the dice on this one and see if this one is cool. But it's it's a brawler. It's just generally fun to do all these moves. It's just kind of fun to experiment around and kind of wing it, developing your own fighting style. Plus everything is very the pixel art is very good. The animations are super fun. Very exciting to do all these moves because they're so well animated. Just watching the characters slug each other in the face or toss people into a trash can and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. But you sounded a little sort of lukewarm on it.
Well, when I started out, I was just kind of I was taking a lot of those reprisal hits. There's been this weird, I don't know, whenever I play one of these brawlers, I just have a weird feeling why can't I just be smart about this game? Why am I not just completely dominating this game? How are they getting the hits in? And I think some of it comes down to, it can be very technically demanding. You have to be aware of where all the enemies are on the screen. You have to be dodging all their attacks. And I don't know if it gets more complicated than that. Maybe I'm just going into this and trying to play it more lazily than it wants me to. Yeah.
You just weren't willing to sort of dedicate the brain power to it.
Yeah, or it could be that in the opening hours, you are just your character is just kind of clunky innately because you haven't leveled them up enough. And I find that after spending more time with it and just upgrading my stats, I suppose, it's a little easier to control The characters are, a little sturdier in fights. And it doesn't feel quite as kind of cheesy if you start getting comboed by an enemy unexpectedly.
Right.
But yeah, I feel like there still is a little bit of like just weird jankiness to the combat. And I don't know if that is just a thing in all brawlers. I don't know if it's kind of unique to this game. I don't know. Maybe it's just something I need to overcome. But who knows?
I think the only game like this that I've really ever attempted to play, and obviously I name-checked Double Dragon earlier, but I've never played Double Dragon. I'm familiar with it.
Sure.
There was a copy in my childhood home, I'm sure. It just wasn't my thing. But the Scott Pilgrim game that came out a few years ago and has recently sort of been resurrected for like the 10th anniversary of the movie. Mm-hmm. I like that movie. I like that comic book. I was like, sure, I'll like the video game too. And the video game's really hard. Like, everybody brings their A game. And like you said, I'm just not willing or was not ready for sort of that level of intensity coming my way, and just was not prepared to sort of meet it. So I kept getting my ass handed to me, and I'm like, nope, don't like the game as much as I like the movie and the comic book. So yeah, that was, $20 wasted. But I sense that there is probably a fairly technical brawler built into that, where, like you said, you have to sort of look for telegraphs of moves and be prepared for enemies coming from different directions. And I kind of expected it to be kind of a lark, like the movie was, like the book, the comic book was. And no, somebody had to make a really hardcore video game out of Scott Pilgrim.
Well, clearly, somebody was a Double Dragon fan.
Clearly,
the development team. Yeah.
I'm not sure who made it. I can't comment to that off the top of my head, but yeah, it clearly wears its influences, I think.
So anyway, I continue to just to better wrap my head around this thing. It's kind of given me a new perspective on how I approach brawlers.
Excellent.
I do really like, I don't know if this is just how I'm interpreting this. It seems like everybody in this game has this weird attitude where they're just always itching to get into a fight. Like, whether it's the two girls, obviously they're sort of on the warpath to get their boyfriends back, but all the characters you run into, a lot of them being just other like high schoolers, they just have like these incredibly angry, aggressive faces. They're always walking around with their fists up, which I guess is to be expected because they're all enemies in a video game. But it just seems like the entire city is just like always ready to get into a fight at the drop of a hat. Every solution the girls come up with, whenever they get a clue to the whereabouts of their boyfriends, they're like, oh, we should go talk to this guy. And if he doesn't cooperate, we'll just beat him up. And that is just their go-to plan. It feels a lot like in a Pokemon game where everybody you talk to, they're just telling you some new fact about Pokemon. You're just like, why is everybody just obsessed with Pokemon in this world? It's like playing this game. It's like, why is everybody just trying to beat somebody up? The little load screen icon is like a little cartoon of the two girls beating each other up. And it's like, they're on the same team. They don't beat each other up in the game, but for some reason, it just makes sense that they just punch each other in the face on the load screens.
Oh, that's funny.
So, I don't know. I find that kind of hysterical.
River City, just a very hostile town.
Yeah. So it does end up being a bit mindless and a little bit grindy, because you do have to grind out a bunch of cash to unlock these new moves and unlock new food so you can build up your stats. But I'm finding it's a nice break, especially after a lot of Resident Evil 5. Before I get into, I guess, Resident Evil 6 or whatever other terrible games are on my plate coming up.
I think one of the things that I've heard, and people really like this game, I've heard positive things about it almost as long as it's sort of been out, I think, is the soundtrack. Any thoughts on that?
I don't like the soundtrack. I don't know what it is.
Oh, really?
Because I've heard of, I went and listened to the composer. She has a bunch of original albums out. And I was like, oh, these are good. But for some reason, the soundtrack in this is just, I don't know. It doesn't stand out as much as like the pixel art and the very vibrant cutscenes and everything. Oh man, there are a lot of cutscenes in this. Why are there so many cutscenes in this? It's weird.
That's a surprising design choice, yeah.
Yeah. Not to end this on a negative note, But there are a lot of times where, like, you know, a new character shows up and they give you clues to help you find your boyfriends, or whenever a boss shows up. There are some long-winded bosses in this game. What is going on? And it doesn't give you the option to just skip through lines of dialogue. It's either you watch the whole thing or you just skip the entire cutscene. And after realizing that after a couple hours in, I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to skip these. So kind of a weird choice. It feels like there's a lot more focus on the story than I need there to be in this game.
Yeah.
But the fighting is good. I just don't need there to be quite so much dialogue.
Yeah. Stay in your lane, River City people.
I don't know. I mean, it feels like I definitely see this, see all the cutscenes landing with certain people. It's just not really my thing.
Yeah. People who are very invested in this world.
Yeah. It starts off with like this really cool sort of manga style intro where it's actually kind of zooming over like these comic panels. That's when you get the text that tells you your boyfriend's been kidnapped. I was like, oh, this is very cool. So it was a little jarring when it then immediately switches into the actual gameplay and everything is in pixel art. I was like, oh man, what happened to those cool kind of comic illustrations? That would have been interesting.
Oh.
But the pixel art is also very good. I just thought it was kind of a weird shift at the very beginning there.
Huh.
Overall,
All right.
I'd say I'm enjoying it. Some rough spots, but I'm dealing with it. I'm learning to deal with it, I guess.
No deal breakers. Nothing that made you abandon the game.
Not yet. Nothing like my co-op partner wandering off and falling on some spikes. Oh, so speaking of co-op partners, you can play it
two players in this, right? How does that work?
You can play it co-op locally, I believe. But since I'm just playing it by myself, you have to pick one of the two girls to play as. And eventually I thought, well, okay, I spent enough time with this one. I wonder if there's any difference playing as the other one. And in fact, you do get kind of a different moveset, but you also have to start leveling them up separately. So I was like, oh my god, I'm already like 2 or 3 areas into this game. I can't start playing as this level 1 character. She's just going to have a bad time. So I immediately swapped back to the other one. I don't know. Maybe there will be an opportunity to go back and just level someone up from the beginning. Just farm a few of those early zones or whatever. But I imagine it would be, be ideal if you're playing it, 2-player co-op from the very beginning. You just level up simultaneously.
So kudos to any video game that levels up your party as you play. That's always a delight when I switch over to a secondary character and they're, the same level, or somebody joins your party late in the game and they join at a comparable level. I'm like, hey, good thinking, Persona people. Yeah.
To be fair, so the other character didn't start at level 1. She was like level 3. So it seems like maybe there was some like background experience happening, but like I was level like 13 or 14 at that point. I can't go back to a level 3 character at that point. I'm sorry. Maybe just for New Game Plus, I will switch to the other character.
There's some weird math equation happening there, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap this thing up. If you need any more video game hangover in your brain, you should definitely follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/VGHangover. You can always get show notes and links and tell us what you thought about this episode at VGHangover.com as well. We would love for you to hang out with us on Discord, talk about video games. Get the link to that at guess where, DJ? Where should people get the link to join our Discord?
Oh man, is it VGHangover.com?
It is. No, it's actually giantbomb. No, it's VGHangover.com.
What are you doing?
Sorry. Please subscribe, rate, and review us at Apple Podcasts, Giant Podcast? Google Podcasts. I don't know what Giant Podcast is. Spotify, YouTube, and anywhere else you can get a podcast. And help us out by telling your friends about the show.
I'm so disappointed. We very clearly established last episode that they are our rival show. So why would you send them traffic?
They really need the help getting that traffic.
I know, that's what I've heard.
Yeah,
okay.
I've heard numbers are way down. People just aren't interacting with them anymore, listening to their hundreds of podcasts.
Right, yeah. They've been having a bad year.
Yeah,
show them
so I figured, I throw them a bone.
Oh, man.
We'll be back next week. Until then, this is Randy Dickinson.
This is DJ Ross.
Thanks for listening to Video Game Hangover. Goodbye.
Good night.
See ya.